This is the Dreamers Podcast, where dreamers share their stories to inspire you. Now, join host Joe Pardo as he interviews a dreamer who's living their dreams.
Welcome to the Dreamers Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Pardo, and today I am interviewing David Michael, who is living his dream through DJing and his Passionate DJ website. Welcome to the show, David.
How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for coming on.
Of course, glad to be a part of it.
Let's get started by giving our audience a brief background of yourself.
Sure. Well, I'm 30 years old. I live at home with my wonderful family, my girlfriend Stacy, and my stepdaughter Lillian, who's about to turn 7. By trade, I'm a systems administrator, and by passion, I'm a DJ / producer and I guess serial entrepreneur. I work from home. I still, work the day job, and my eventual goal is to quit the day job and to be, pursuing my own passions full time. I run, like you said, passionatedj.com, which is a blog and a podcast about becoming a better DJ through passion and purpose. I also am working on a couple other business ideas. Stacy and I are working on a Amazon reseller business. I'm working on some software geared towards managing animal rescues. And then, of course, just my own DJing and event promotion. So I've got my hands in all kinds of little baskets and trying to do probably too much at once. But I think that's what it's all about. Is I like the climb, and I like pursuing my passions and dreams and trying to get where I'm going. I grew up here in Dayton, Ohio, to 2 wonderful parents who are still together. I'm the oldest of 6 siblings, so I grew up in a pretty full house. Outside of that, event promotion, marketing are some of my interests. I'm into cars. I've got a 2000 Trans Am that I tinker on. A little bit of video gaming and anything technology. Those are all the things I'm pretty much stoked about.
Well, what exactly inspires you to be a entrepreneur? Entrepreneur. Did I say that right?
Yeah. I've always kind of had that drive to want to run my own business or project of some sort. It started back when I was in high school. A buddy of mine and I, actually the guy who's working on the animal rescue project with me, we started a local automotive community type website. Before Facebook and MySpace and social media took off, we built up a reasonably well-visited forum and did events like cruise-ins and things like that. And I think that's probably what really got me hooked on it, because I enjoyed, even though it wasn't anything that was my bread and butter that I was depending on, I enjoyed kind of putting these systems in place and managing the whole, the small empire, I guess. And it was one of those things where I came to the realization that people were benefiting from the value I could provide them, rather than necessarily the time I spent working on something as with a day job. And that is what kind of got me thinking about, I would rather get paid for my value instead of my time. So how can I make that happen? So that's kind of how it has guided me this way.
Well, that kind of answers the question, how did your dream come about? But let's specifically go into DJing and then how Passionate DJ came about.
Sure. Well, obviously it starts with the music. I mean, music is my therapy. It's what keeps me sane when I'm, trying to do way too many things at once. It's not my reason for living, but it's damn high up on the list. I mean, I was born into a musical family. My father sings and plays tenor sax, and both of my parents were in the church choir growing up, and so I would sit in on their practices and I would hear them do, they would sing the alto part, then they would sing the soprano part and the tenor part. And I started putting all these pieces together as far as how that all worked, and ended up taking piano lessons. And that led to me doing producing, which led to DJing, which led to me wanting to tell others about it. So I decided that I wanted to kind of a perfect storm of me wanting to try things to get to have new pursuits, and I wanted to break away from the routine. I wanted to do something new, and I wanted to find ways that I could gain independence financially and just as far as my time goes. And so Passionate DJ came about as a kind of an experiment. At the beginning of last year, basically what happened was the actual phrase that I said was, I want to make my 30s awesome. And I turned 30 in September last year. So that was kind of where it started. So I'm like, okay, what can I do that is going to maintain my interest long enough to really drive something home? Because I hadn't taken on a big project like this in a long time. And so I basically did a kind of mind map exercise where I wrote out like 7 of my, I think it was 7 fears, 7 passions, and something else. I can't remember exactly. And the one thing that just kept coming back up is DJing. You know, it was the one thing that I knew that I could write about all the time and not get tired of it. And one thing I'm just really interested in doing, and felt that I had enough valuable information to share with other people. So it started as an experiment. You know, can I build traffic? Can I build a fan base? Can I provide value to people? Will they pick up what I'm putting down, basically? And it's been working, and it's kind of it turns out I'm a pretty decent writer, which I kind of knew, but I never really had applied to anything before. I had never had writing as an interest until I decided to write about something I was interested about, and it's kind of taken off from there.
Well, it helps when you have people that really believe in you, and you know, how I found out about your site was through DJ Z-Trip retweeting an article that you did about beat matching.
Yeah, it was probably 10 reasons why you should still learn how to beat match by ear, or something like that.
It should be pretty self-explanatory as to a skill that's the very basis of DJing outside of the song selection.
Right. Yeah, it was super cool. That particular post went viral and brought a lot of attention to the site, which was a big confidence booster for me. That was my first kind of experience with more people seeing what I had written than people that I hadn't directly guided to the site or had seen it through friends or friends of friends kind of thing. It was suddenly I had this influx of traffic, which is a little makes you feel a little vulnerable too. But I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
Well, how did your family and your friends receive, first the DJing, and then later when you were like, hey, I'm going to do this website, and I am doing this website, and oh man, all these people are coming to my site all of a sudden because of this one article. I'm sure you were jumping up and down.
Yeah,
noise about it. How was it received by those that are closest to you?
So as far as family goes, they've always been really supportive. I have a very supportive family. As far as they don't all necessarily know what it is that I'm doing, but I haven't dealt with a whole lot of the criticism as far as why are you wasting your time on this or that. My girlfriend Stacy particularly has been incredibly supportive. She realizes that, because I'm trying to do all of these other projects and do all this writing and this time that requires creative energy, she's really been supportive through the whole thing and understanding. And I think that it's actually inspired her to make some moves towards her own dreams, which is pretty cool. As far as friends go, been kind of a mixed bag, mostly supportive. The funny thing is the most negativity that you seem to get when it comes to friends are from the people that are closest to you. And they don't mean to do it. I think maybe it's just those are the people that you have maybe the most honesty, with. Like I had one particular friend who was kind of like, why are you trying to do this full time? Why are you trying to be a writer and a DJ and all this stuff when you have a good job that's paying all your bills? You've got a nice house, everything's going fine for you. And I had to be very clear, it's not that my job has treated me poorly. It's that I've been working this job for 13 years, which for a 30-year-old is a long time. I mean, I've been doing this since I was in high school, and I'm ready to change it up. And I want to do that in such a way that I'm, every day I'm doing something that I want to do. And I feel like I could spend a lot of time on something like that if it's something I love doing. Suddenly it doesn't feel so oppressive if you love doing it anyway. You know what I mean?
Very much.
So, some of them don't really understand that, but the ones that have that kind of same entrepreneurial drive or just drive in general, particularly motivated people, tend to understand more than people who are kind of stagnant in their own situation, which is kind of revealing. And, you can't take you have to take it with a grain of salt, because they're typically not trying to attack you or anything. They just don't understand, or it maybe reveals something that they don't like about themselves. So I don't take any of that personally, but overall, very supportive. I have a lot of good people in my life, so I can't really complain there.
Yeah, it's pretty invaluable to have people that believe in you and enough to support you even though they don't get it. I always say, to me it's not necessarily about money. It's not about wanting it all, it's about wanting to do it all.
Absolutely. I mean, money obviously plays a factor. I mean,
everything costs money, man. Dreams,
yeah.
Especially dreams.
Yeah, money's definitely important, and that plays a huge role in my decision-making process. But it's, what good is money if you just collect money and it sits there, right? I mean, money is a means to an end. And for me, my end is, I want to be able to pursue these passions that are not necessarily, may or may not be money-making ventures, but they're just things that I'm interested in, that I want to do, that they give value to me or others. And, you have to have money to do that. So it's almost like I'm trying to put systems in place to make money, but in order to gain time. It's not really the money that I'm trying to collect so much as it's financial independence, so that I have kind of independence as far as my scheduling and my time goes, because the time is the one resource that we do not have an infinite source of. I mean, you can always find a way to get more money. You can always find a way to get more of anything but time. Once time's gone, it's gone. So it's all about getting to that point where basically I can do what I want. I mean, in a way, it's kind of selfish, but it's not just me. I want to spend more time with my family. I want to spend more time with my music, and I want to, so it all kind of, it centers around money, but money's not the purpose, for sure.
Well, I mean, we both know the tech industry is not great to people over the age of 50.
Right.
So it does make sense, especially for you being in the tech field, to figure out something for the next level. Even if it's not today or tomorrow, down the road, you're going to need something.
Well, especially because I got really lucky when I was young in high school, because I was going to a vocational school. I managed to get kind of an internship gig through the company that I still work for today, and impressed the right person and got hired on. So I was lucky then, but the position that puts me in now is I have no degree, I have no certifications, I have nothing to really fall back on other than I have 13 years of experience in the field, and I have worked my way up a little bit in the corporate ladder, but it's one of those things, where do I go from here? Do I want to, because I'm a sysadmin now, and it doesn't really go much beyond that unless I want to get into management, or I want to specialize in something, like I want to be a database administrator or a storage administrator. And so I decided that that doesn't really float my boat anymore, especially, going down that road any further. So I'm trying to put all these other pieces in place so that I can do what I'm passionate about and still pay the bills.
So when you got started DJing, and then when you got started with PassionateDJ.com, what steps did you take to get started with both of them?
Well, DJing itself, I've been doing for close to 10 years, so that, it's a little different time frame than the blog, which is much more recent. But the DJing thing kind of came as a natural progression, because, like I said, I had already had a lot of musical influence. I've always loved music, and I went from playing piano to, what if I can write my own songs? So then I would try to I took a couple of small composing classes from my piano teacher, which was an extra, a Saturday thing. Started learning more about that and improvisation and stuff, and then I 10, 15 years ago, I came across, I think it was probably an early version of Fruity Loops or something. For those who aren't aware, that's audio production software, and started making beats, and then started making melodies, and started going, whoa, I can make entire songs, right in the box. So I started doing that, and then I started going, well, how can I perform out somewhere and share music with people? So then it led to me seeking that out, which led to DJing, which led to me getting involved with the scene and trying to network, and which leads to marketing, and which leads to the blog. So it was kind of a long progression over time. I never really had a specific plan of attack for DJing other than I've got stuff inside of me that I need to get out and I want to share it with people. And that was a way for me to kind of bring a performance art into the whole thing. As far as starting the blog, there's a lot of frustrating things about being a DJ, which I'm sure you're fully aware of. I mean, as far as dealing with other DJs and dealing with crowds and with the state that the music industry is in now, there is a lot of freedom for people like me to explore things like this, which means that it's, the barriers of entry have been lowered. So what used to cost a lot of money to get involved with and used to require a lot of investment and time and connections and things to do is now kind of a free-for-all. I mean, you can get online and download a zillion songs and some free software and call yourself a DJ, and that's all it takes. Which is fine. I don't really care what people do with their free time. That's how all of us pretty much got started in some form or another. But what gets frustrating is when people, they tend to devalue the craft, or at least devalue what it is that you do, or at least you feel that way because you're like, hey, I've put a lot of time into this. This is like, I'm passionate about this. I put a lot more thought into this than just hitting shuffle on my iPod. So, and I know that there are other people out there that feel the same way, and I want to connect with them. So that was kind of where the blog started. Is on one hand, it was this experiment, can I build traffic? Can I build a fan base? But on the other hand, it's like, I actually just want to find these people who are like me, who think that there's more to being a DJ than how good you can blend between two songs of your choice, So I started doing a lot of research, both in the blogging aspect, how do I become a better writer? How do I write good headlines? How do I do this and that? Luckily, I had a lot of the technical background already. I already knew how to set up a website and all that kind of stuff. So that stuff was easy for me. But the hard part is giving yourself permission to do it. In a way, it's kind of hard to explain, but you have to give yourself permission to succeed. And that's something that people don't really consider, I don't think, but it becomes very real when you decide you want to do something. You almost feel like, who am I to put my thoughts out there for the world to see? Or who am I to be standing in front of a crowd, playing to this 5, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000 people, however many it is? What gives me the right to do that? And you have to get over that. I mean, you don't want to be an egomaniac, but at the same time, it's okay to share your brand of knowledge with the world. And if people resonate with that and you're providing value to them, then more power to you. So getting over that initial hurdle is kind of a big deal. And overall, it really comes down to giving a crap about what you're writing about and what you're trying to share with people. And it's kind of funny because there's a lot of parallels between DJing, blogging, starting a business, and these are all things that I'm interested in. In each of those, you want to ask, what problems are people having that you're trying to solve? How can I help them with that? As far as the blog goes, it's like, how can I treat them like a friend and not just guest number 39,264? I mean, I want to actually interact with people and feel like I'm a friend to them, and I want to gain friends out of it. So that was really what got me started and gave me the push that I needed was, I feel like I have stuff on my chest to get out, and I feel like somebody else will resonate with it. And if not, fine. But it's hard to bare your soul to an audience. And so you have to really develop a thick skin quickly. And that was something that was really thrown in my face with that viral post that actually, the beat matching post that introduced us, because there were a lot of people, right now that post has, I don't know, it's coming up on 200 comments or something like that. There was just as many, actually most comments are, wow, this article's spot on. This is great. Thank you for writing this. I've been saying this for years, da, 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 da. But then there's like that 10 or 20% that are like, well, if you don't do such and such, you're not a real DJ, or, get off your high horse and blah, blah, blah. And it's one of those things like people obviously didn't read the article to completion, or I didn't explain something properly. And probably the truth's always something in the middle.
Yeah, well, there's always going to be haters.
Yeah, it is, and you have to really be prepared for that, because I'm kind of branding myself as this nice guy, like approachable, like anybody can talk to me, because that's just how I am.
I can attest to that.
Well, thank you. And so I was like, okay, I know that this is a strength of mine. I'm going to use that. I'm going to be, there are other DJ blogs out there, but I want people to feel like they can hit me up on Skype like you are, or, they can join my email list and reply to something and I'll actually reply back and that sort of thing. And, I'm not an egomaniac. I'm not judgmental. Feel like I'm really easy to talk to. And so to get all that negative attention suddenly, even if it was the minority of all the comments on there, it still makes you go, oh crap. It just makes you feel so bad. And you have to get over that, because it's going to happen, or you're probably not making moves. You know what I mean?
Right. What would you say that you did to overcome those? I mean, because I would say those were pretty big roadblocks. I mean, I know for me personally, being at a DJ competition and getting booed only once, one time, but the crowd did not get what I was coming from. But the DJ who was operating the whole show for the competition was like, screw them. They don't know what they're talking about. What you're doing is really good. Keep doing it because you're educating them.
Yeah, you're going to have criticism. You're going to have negativity. You're going to feel vulnerable. And the only way that you're going to get past that is, it sounds really cliche, but is to just do it. I mean, occasionally you have to throw yourself under the bus a little bit, make yourself vulnerable, because it all comes down to doing a little bit at a time, and you have to make yourself uncomfortable, or else there's no point. Because if you're comfortable, then you're not changing anything. You're not putting yourself out there. You're not making a difference. And, there would be no point in pursuing something that every single person in the world agreed with. There would be no purpose for what you're doing. So you have to realize that you're going to run into that kind of thing, and just grin and bear it. I mean, I haven't found a better way to deal with it personally. It's harder for me to deal with criticism and negativity from people I know than randoms, but it still affects you. Yeah, that the only advice I have is just keep doing it little bits at a time. I mean, baby steps. My most interaction that I've ever gotten on the blog so far is that post that turned out to be kind of controversial, and I was not intentionally doing that. I mean, I didn't go out there and make some like sensationalist headline and call somebody an idiot or anything like that. I just put my thoughts on paper, and some people are going to think that you're Satan for doing that. And just accept it. It's fine. So
is there any parts of your dream or dreams that haven't quite worked out?
Well, I'm still trying, so I'll let you know. Obviously, I haven't been able to quit my job yet, but I'm still very early on this journey. I mean, I decided about a year ago that I wanted to quit my job and work for myself. I'm not there yet, but I've made so much progress that I never would have thought that I would be as far as I am. I mean, I've got, a good readership. I've got a mailing list with several hundred people on it. I've got people who are writing me every day, thanking me for, the writing that I do and the podcast and everything. So I'm finding those people that are resonating with my message. And at the same time, I'm working on these other business ideas that are moving slower than I would like, but I'm seeing results. So it's one of those things. Well, maybe I'll start this business and just dip my toes in, and then it makes me $100, and I'm like, okay, proof of concept. I can't quit my job, but I've proven that this is going somewhere. And so that's basically where I am with all of my projects right now. Is I'm proving to myself that this is okay. This is where I need to go. So yeah, that's I'll let you know if I have any major failures. I don't feel like I have so far, but I've also treaded very lightly as far as making investments in things, growing too big too fast. This whole time I've approached it as if it's a marathon and not a sprint. The if I could give some advice, it is important to stop and smell the roses while you're doing all this. I mean, it's really easy to, for me, I'm working a full-time job, and I do work from home now. I telecommute, so that helps a lot with that flexibility. But it's important to not just do what you're passionate about, but to be passionate about what you do. Stop and smell the roses. I mean, don't let life pass you by while you're pursuing your dreams, because sometimes part of the dream is the pursuit. You know what I mean? And if you position yourself to where you're working on something that you care about, it's not going to feel so much like work, even if your schedule is full, even if you stayed up too late and you're losing hours of sleep. If you love what you're doing, it really goes a long way. But you also have to think of how that affects other people. So I've had to really be careful that I don't cause problems in my family life because I'm always gone or always locked in a room writing, or always locked up behind my DJ booth or whatever it is. There's only so much time in the day. So for me, it's a time management issue, and I'm still working on that. So if I were to say one thing that hasn't worked out or that has been a problem for me or a hurdle, it's time management. So that's something I'm very much working on, getting up a specific time every day, whether I have something to do or not, and making sure I'm done at a certain time of the day so that I can give my family the attention they deserve, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be tough, especially working from home. If there's no problem, there's no reason to be up. It's not
Exactly.
like going to the office where, okay, I got to be here at 8 o'clock, so I'm going to have a problem if I'm not there at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, telecommuting has been a nice transition because it's helped introduce me to that time management problem without like completely messing everything up, because I'm just kind of dipping my toes in. It's like, okay, I'm not running my own business. I don't have all that responsibility, but I'm learning what I need to do to manage my schedule, how to communicate with Stacy about what I'm going to be doing that day. And it's been an adjustment at least as much for her as it's been for me, because it's hard for her to realize that, when I'm working, you need to pretend I'm not here or they say that if you get interrupted, it takes you like 15 or 20 minutes to get your train of thought back to where you were. And everything that I do requires that kind of creative energy, the DJing, the music production, writing, all that stuff that I'm interested in. If I get interrupted, it's like all the thoughts just fly out of my head and I have to start over. And so it's, finding those tactful ways to, say that, hey, I need some uninterrupted time, all that kind of stuff. The other thing is having a good support network is good. And you have to kind of pursue that on your own, as far as surrounding yourself with like-minded, driven people. So like I have a couple of buddies that we haven't for a little while now, but every week, once a week, we are meeting up to just a local bar and grill to talk about our various entrepreneurial pursuits, and kind of like a mastermind meeting, where you just get together and talk, even though all of our projects were completely unrelated, getting that outside perspective. That being said, you really can only count on yourself as far as getting things done. So while it's important to have that support network, I don't think that you should rely on anyone else if you're trying to get things done. I don't mean to say that you can't rely on anybody, but don't be dependent on somebody else if it's holding you up. You have to learn how to say no, or learn how to move things along without causing problems in your relationships with people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things that always held me back was I needed an artist to convey the things that I was looking to do, and then I found that in Matt, fortunately, and he's been very, very good for me, and I think I've been very good for him, getting moving our passions forward. Anyway, so do you have any dreams for the future? I mean, you've dabbled in that here, but anything that you're willing to share for the future?
Sure. Well, obviously, quitting the day job is the most immediate thing that I'm trying to do. That's kind of like it's an immediate milestone that's within reach. So that's kind of my focus now, just because it's something that I can digest and I feel that I can do. I also would like to do something in the autism space, and I'm not quite sure of what that is yet. But the reason is, like I said earlier at the beginning, I'm the oldest of 6 siblings, and 2 of them are on the autism spectrum. My younger brother Benjamin is an Aspie, has Asperger's syndrome, and then my sister, who is the youngest, the only girl, she's got it's called PDD-NOS, which is also autism spectrum. It stands for pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified. So it's essentially an umbrella term. It's a catch-all. Autism covers so many different things, but she's very low functioning. She's 12 years old, but she's more like dealing with a 2 or 3-year-old. But she is also a huge inspiration to me, and just I just love my sister to death, and it's really it's made me want to do something. I don't know if it's philanthropic, or even if it's just throwing an occasional event to where I can donate to some society. I haven't figured out where I'm going with that yet, but something in the autism space would be something I'd like to do. I'd like to travel more. That's something that I've not really been able to do, and is kind of part of why I'm doing all this, is to have the freedom to go and have adventures, basically. I'd like to be a little more prolific and successful as far as my DJing and producing goes, so that I can share my craft with more people outside of my own town. I'll probably always want to be building businesses, or attempting to, because I enjoy the climb. And I think if I could get to the point where I'm financially independent, then that's only going to drive me to want to do that more, because I enjoy building things, building systems. Maybe that comes as my, from my systems administrator background, but I like putting all the pieces in place and that sort of thing. And finally, just building kind of a legacy, making my mark on the world, even if it's only to a handful of people. I think that's more important to me than how much money I make, or where I live, or that sort of thing. I want to make an impact on people's lives.
Well, if you need help with the autism stuff, let me know. I would love to help you out in any way I can. I mean, I know we're not
Great.
like next to each other, but we share a state in between us.
Yeah, I mean, the world's getting smaller every day.
It definitely is. So is there any last thoughts you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, sure. I actually have a quote, if you don't mind, if that's not too cheesy, but it's: success is typically about doing more of the things that you know you should do, rather than learning the secrets you don't know. So I'll read that again. Success is typically about doing more of the things you know you should do, rather than learning the secrets you don't know. And the reason I bring that up is because I think that people feel like there are these massive barriers in front of them and their dreams. And I think that the biggest barrier is ourselves. I mean, giving ourselves permission to try things, being willing to take small risks or even large risks. And, it's not that there's some big secret to success. It's that you need to actually take baby steps. And I came to realize this when, I had thought about trying to start businesses and start writing and start doing this and that. And I would just think about it. And then a few months later, I would think about it. And then a few months later, I would think about it. And the next thing you know, it's been 5-10 years. And I'm like, how far along would I be if I had taken this baby step 10 years ago? And you come to realize that it's not really that there are these big hurdles in the way. It's just that there are a lot of them, and you need to go get out there and start making mistakes and figuring it out. And the sooner you do that, the sooner you're going to be well on your way. In this modern age, we have more opportunities than we've ever had to advance ourselves, to pursue our dreams, to follow our passions. And it seems like even so, we have at least as many, if not more, unhappy people and uninspired people than we've ever had. And maybe that's just kind of a social effect of, us, we're able to see everybody's thoughts all day long on, whatever screen happens to be in front of us. But it seems to me that there's no reason outside of just complacency to be an unhappy drone.
Yeah, I mean, and you're absolutely right. There's plenty of opportunity for people to find themselves and find something out there that they can be passionate about and be happy with, and hopefully make money with.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of what again, it takes money to make dreams.
It does. And honestly, I would love, since I feel like I'm pretty much at the start of my journey as far as that goes, and I would love to maybe follow up with you in 6 months or a year and give you an update if you'd be willing to have me back on.
I would love to have you on for a follow-up show. I think that's going to turn into a thing with most of my guests, having them back on.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to be part of it, man.
Well, thank you very much, David. I appreciate you coming on, and everybody, passionatedj.com. Go check it out if you're into DJing, or even if you just know a little bit about DJing and want to learn more.
And P.S., a lot of the messages that I put out there on the site have a lot to do with personal development, and you could probably pull a lot from that even if you're not a DJ. So,
well, you're a very inspirational person, so yes, that is very true from the writing, because I personally read it. All right, well, you have yourself a wonderful day, David.
Thanks so much, Joe. Appreciate being on.
Thank you very much. Take care.
You too.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Dreamers Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Dreamers Podcast. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Dreamers Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the Dreamers Podcast, please send an email to j@jpar.co. This podcast is copyright 2014 by jpar.co. My name is Al.
And I'm Joyce.
And we're huge Disneyland fans. In fact, we love the Disneyland Resort so much, we host a podcast dedicated to the happiest place on earth to share that passion with others.
That's right. On our show, Tales from the Mouse House Disneyland podcast, we share current resort news, some tips and tricks we've learned over the years to help make your Disneyland Resort vacation the most magical experience ever. We uncover little-known and often overlooked gems we like to call hidden treasures, and even review the attractions and places to eat that make the Disneyland Resort so much fun.
And if that wasn't enough, we even share some video episodes to help keep you in that Disney magic state of mind. If you're a longtime fan of the Disneyland Resort, or you've just recently discovered the magic, this podcast is for you. You can find Tales from the Mouse House Disneyland podcast at www.talescast.com and in iTunes.
And remember, make it a Mickey day.